Imagine this. You are a young page at the glittering court of Poitiers in the 1170s, your heart hammering beneath a velvet tunic as you slip through the moonlit corridors of Countess Eleanor's palace. The cold air bites at your exposed hands. A folded scrap of parchment, a forbidden poem, burns in your palm. Through stained glass windows you glimpse silhouettes of nobles in whispered conversation, shadows flickering across ancient stone. Somewhere in these halls, your lady waits, her favor promised for a single reckless act of devotion. But above you, banners flutter with the crest of your lord, and the threat of discovery presses in with every creak of the floor. Your secret is dangerous. Every step draws you closer to either glory or ruin. You pause beneath a spiral stair. The scent of beeswax and damp stone fills your lungs. Far above, laughter drifts from the feasting hall. Your fingers tremble as you reread her words. Meet me when the candles die. Bring courage, not company. For a heartbeat, you remember the troubadour's songs that first awakened these desires, tales of noble knights and chaste devotion, of love too pure to ever be corrupted. But now, standing in the cold silence of the castle's underbelly, you feel the weight of what those songs never dared confess. The legend of courtly love is about to devour you. Think you know what courtly love meant? Think again. The story you were taught is a lie. Forget images of chivalrous knights composing harmless verses and maidens sighing on balconies. The reality is far darker. This wasn't innocent flirtation. It was a high-stakes game played by the powerful, in which the rules could change overnight and the price of losing was public disgrace, mutilation, or exile. The courtly rituals you admired were laced with danger. Every secret romance was a political act, every favor a weapon, every word of longing ammunition for enemies lying in wait. What you don't realize is how easily passion curdled into peril. In these halls, a careless glance or a single intercepted letter could end a family's fortune or drive a noblewoman to her death. Love was not safe. It was a spectacle, watched by jealous rivals and scheming priests. The supposed liberation of the heart was used as bait, drawing victims into webs spun by those with real power. The next move you make could elevate you to legend or damn you to silence. But here's where the real nightmare begins. You are not alone in this labyrinth. Servants whisper in corners their loyalty always for sale. Priests stalk the corridors eager to root out sin in the name of virtue. Your every action, every brush of a sleeve, every anxious glance can be twisted, used as evidence against you in the ever-watchful eyes of the court. Beneath the glittering surface of noble gatherings, a culture of surveillance grows. There are no true confidants, only temporary allies. Outside the walls, peasants tell tales of romance and longing, imagining that the highborn are free to choose their destinies. But inside, you see the truth. Every affection is calculated. Marriage is currency, desire is treason, and the heart is a liability. Even a smile must be measured against the risk of exposure. The church's shadow creeps through every chamber, ready to pronounce damnation on those who cross boundaries it alone defines. You learned the rules young. Keep your feelings hidden, your motives inscrutable, your passions masked behind ritual. Yet, you also know that playing by the rules is no guarantee of safety. The most careful lovers still fall. The annals of this court overflow with stories of those who reached too high, who confused the performance of love with the reality of power. They are not remembered as romantic heroes, but as warnings, names scratched from family trees, faces blurred in illuminated manuscripts, lessons for those who would dare to follow. But tonight, all of this means nothing as you reach the door to her chamber. Your breath clouds in the candlelight. You are certain that this is love, that something pure and rare might bloom in the shadows. But just as you lift your hand to knock, a cough echoes behind you. A servant's eyes meet yours, knowing, calculating, dangerous. In a single heartbeat, your fate is no longer yours to command. This is the true beginning of your story. The myth of courtly love is not a tale of gentle longing. It is a ritual of exposure, manipulation, and survival. And now, with a single misstep, you are about to discover what happens when fantasy meets the machinery of power. The next chapter is already being written, in ink, in rumor, in blood, but here's where it gets worse. Every secret in these halls comes at a price, and yours has just been sold. You freeze as the servant's footsteps recede, the echo swallowed by layers of ancient stone. In your hand, the crumpled letter grows heavier, its verses once a promise, now a threat. One slip, and you are not a lover, but an accused. Your mind races through every careless detail. The extra glance at supper, the pressed flower hidden in your sleeve, the lines you whispered by the riverbank. Each gesture is a brick in the gallows being built beneath you. You move away from her door, heart pounding with dread. The castle feels colder, as if its walls are leaning in to listen. You remember the legends, secret meetings in rose gardens, midnight serenades, the thrill of longing untouched by risk. But the truth is far more suffocating. At court, love is not a dance. It is a trial. The rules are unwritten, but the punishments are carved deep: public shame, exile, even death if the wrong eyes see too much. Think about what they never tell you. Courtly love is a spectacle, staged for an audience hungry for scandal. Your every move is noticed by rivals and hangers-on. Your successes, your failures, the blush on your face when her name is spoken. You see how easily affection turns to ammunition. One rumor, one misplaced rumor, and suddenly you are summoned, not to a lover's embrace, but to a council of elders, a jury of those who have played the game longer, sharper, crueler than you. The next morning brings dread made flesh. You are called to the hall of judgments, a vaulted chamber thick with the scent of incense and old secrets. The countess herself presides, her eyes unreadable. The court of love, they call it. Its purpose, supposedly, is to arbitrate the rules of desire, to celebrate wit and devotion. In reality, it is a stage where alliances are forged and enemies unmasked. Here, innocent games become trials with real stakes. The lords and ladies gather not for your defense but for the thrill of the spectacle. You stand before them, accused by implication alone. Did you send the poem? Did you steal a glance? Did you favor the wrong lady at the last dance? The rules shift like sand. Andreas Capellanus, author of The Art of Courtly Love, the very manual you studied to learn the game, warned that real love cannot exist between husband and wife. Desire, according to the rules, must be impossible to fulfill, forever chaste, never. Caught. But this is not a rule to protect you. It is a snare. Your defense means nothing. The whispers are louder than your words. In this room, every gesture is twisted. The countess questions you, her voice silk and steel. What is the penalty for a love declared too boldly? For a glance too long? The assembled nobles lean forward, savoring the theater. Their faces flicker between amusement and malice. You realize that your humiliation is the true entertainment. The outcome is decided long before you speak. Marie de Champagne, famed for presiding over these courts, once declared, "Love can have no place in marriage. It must exist in secret or not at all." But secrecy is poison. The more you hide, the more they hunt. Your name is now a story, told and retold with each passing hour. You hear the verdict. Your honor is questioned. Your loyalty is suspect. The lady's reputation hangs by a thread. But here's where it gets worse. Your rivals do not stop with words. The church's men are always watching from the shadows. What began as private longing is now fodder for priests eager to root out sin. They mutter of adulterous intent, of souls endangered, of the wrath that falls on those who love beyond the law. Your secret, once a thrill, now marks you for surveillance, confession, perhaps even excommunication. You have become a lesson, a warning to others who would dare to desire. You escape the hall, but the walls close tighter. Rumors breed in the cracks. The castle is alive with watchers, maids, squires, confessors, each eager to trade your secrets for favor. The game of love is revealed for what it is: a system, maintained by spies and informers, designed to keep power in the hands of the few and longing as a lever to control the rest. You find yourself looking over your shoulder, doubting every friend, questioning every kindness. You see how the machinery works. A nobleman, ruined by one intercepted letter, stripped of his lands and sent into exile. A lady, found guilty of a single touch, her hair shorn, marched through the market to the jeers of the crowd. The consequences reach beyond shame. They destroy families, shatter alliances, turn children into outcasts. This is not the age of romance. It is the age of weaponized desire. Now you are beginning to understand what's truly at stake. The stakes are not just love, or pride, or pleasure. They are survival itself. The walls have ears. The law has eyes. Your story is written by others, and every act of longing is a page they can tear out at will. And yet, you want to know more. You want to see just how deep this web of control runs, how the machinery of power and piety turned courtly love from legend into a living nightmare. If you're ready to keep digging, to witness the truths that history tried to erase, subscribe now. Only by stepping further into the shadows will you learn how desire became danger, and why the victims of courtly love were never the ones history let you remember. But the game is not finished. Even now, someone is watching. Your next move could be your last. You feel the castle's walls pressing closer, each stone heavy with 1,000 secrets and the threat of judgment. Daylight offers no safety. At dawn, bells toll from the chapel tower, a reminder that another authority, more terrifying than any court of nobles, governs every breath you take. The church's reach is absolute. In its shadow, every longing becomes suspect, every rumor an accusation. Imagine this. You are summoned by a priest whose eyes betray neither warmth nor mercy. The smell of incense and cold iron fills the confessional, where whispered sins become weapons. You kneel, heart pounding, but you know this is no ordinary confession. The questions are precise, unrelenting. Did you share private words with the lady? Did you gaze at her when your thoughts should have been on prayer? Did your soul wander where your body dared not go? Your answers, meant to save you, become snares. Your greatest fear is realized. Not only does the church see your desire as sin, it sees it as evidence of a deeper corruption. In 1215, the Fourth Lateran Council sharpened canon law to prosecute even suspicion of adultery and forbidden longing. Historical records from the Bishop of Paris reveal entire households vanishing from the city ledgers after a single charge. You are no longer just a player in a courtly game. You are prey in a hunt for souls. A forward-leaning hook hangs in the air. But what you don't know is how quickly the church's justice can become a spectacle of suffering. Accusation is easy. Defense is impossible. Your rival whispers to a confessor, perhaps for gold, perhaps for vengeance. And soon you are called to testify. You are told that truth is found in suffering, that pain will reveal the heart's secrets. The threat of penance, public humiliation, or excommunication hangs over every word. You stand in the nave, the congregation watching as your name is read aloud, your offense named in the ancient tongue. The priest's voice rings out. Suspected of unlawful affection, in violation of God's law and the sanctity of noble bonds. You search the crowd for an ally, but find only averted eyes. The same courtiers who once envied your favor now shrink away, fearful of guilt by association. But here's where it gets truly twisted. The Church's authority is not limited to the spirit. Its courts wield secular power, handing out sentences that ruin bodies as well as souls. Your confession becomes legal testimony. The punishment is not only prayers and fasting, but loss of property, banishment, and, if the case is made by someone powerful enough, permanent removal from the world you once knew. According to the Liber Officialis of Bishop William of Auvergne, even nobles found guilty of secret love could be exiled from their lands, their names erased from records. In some cases, public penance meant being paraded barefoot, in rags, through the streets, humiliated before your entire community. Your family's future becomes a casualty of your supposed desire. The system is relentless. Accusations become convictions, and convictions become examples. And just when you think it cannot escalate further, you discover another horror. The church rewards those who accuse. Informers are given leniency, protection, sometimes even wealth in exchange for a secret betrayed. You understand at last that no secret is safe, no bond unbreakable. Every confession whispered in the dark can be turned against you at dawn. Minnie Hook, but the punishment is not only external, it infects the mind. You find yourself haunted by dreams of the court, of whispered rumors turning into chains. Even in private, your thoughts betray you. You pray not for forgiveness, but for forgetfulness, knowing that the memory of desire is enough to condemn you. Historical accounts from the registers of Avignon tell of entire noble houses erased after one accusation of forbidden love. You see the evidence in empty seats at feasts, in the sudden disappearance of a banner from the great hall. Stories spread of lovers who vanished in the night, of families who woke to find their coats of arms burned from the chapel walls. But the church's reach does not end with you. The lady whose favor you sought is not spared. She too is called to account. Her innocence is measured not by proof, but by absence, of bruises, of letters, of advocates willing to speak. The law presumes her guilt. The only escape is silence, exile, or a hurried marriage to a man who promises to erase her shame for a price. You begin to realize the true horror. Courtly love, so often painted as noble rebellion, is simply another tool of discipline, another weapon in the arsenal of control. Your heart's longing is not freedom. It is a leash. You thought you could love in secret. Now you know, every secret belongs to those who write the laws, hear the confessions, and profit from your fall. You are not a hero in a poem, nor a victim in a tragedy. You are a warning, a shadow flickering on the chapel wall. But what if you still refuse to break? What if you cling to the idea that love could be worth the price? The system is ready for that, too. The Inquisition's manuals prescribe ever harsher remedies for the stubborn. The rack, the pyre, the slow isolation that grinds hope to dust. You are taught not only to fear desire, but to forget it ever existed. And so, you walk the corridors once more, a ghost among the living. Every door that closes behind you is a reminder. Love here is never just love. It is always already evidence. It is always already a crime. A cold rain falls as you emerge from the chapel, stripped not only of hope, but of your very place in the world. The eyes of the village are on you now, watching from behind shutters, from beneath the hoods of cloaks, from the cover of silence that follows all public disgrace. You cling to the memory of stolen glances and whispered verses, but the world has already decided your guilt. In the square, you find your fate mirrored in the eyes of another, a noble woman, hair shorn to the scalp, her pale feet pressed into mud as she is paraded through the streets. Shame is now her only garment. The word adulteress spat like a curse as children run behind, laughing and jeering. You are forced to watch, powerless as her life is dismantled piece by piece. The ritual is exacting. Her dowry returned in disgrace, her family's alliances shattered in a single morning. No one dares speak in her defense. You feel the chill of the crowd's complicity. Their excitement is palpable, a ritual cleansing of their own anxieties and repressed longing. Her punishment is not just for desire, but for challenging the architecture of order. The message is clear. Transgress, and you will be made a lesson. The spectacle continues. Later, a knight, once admired for his skill and charm, stands before the church door, stripped to the waist, his flesh bared for the lash. He was caught with a poem, nothing more, but the punishment is physical. Each stroke is a public sentence, a reminder that love's wounds are not only metaphorical. When it is over, he is sent into exile. The crowd murmurs that he was a fool, that he should have known better, but their faces betray something closer to fear than satisfaction. But here's where it gets worse. The consequences do not end at humiliation. They extend to every corner of the victim's existence. Her children are marked, whispered about as tainted. Her relatives find themselves shunned at market, called traitors to blood and faith. The knight's name vanishes from lists of squires and heirs. The machinery of the court and church turns reputation into weapon, and once it has destroyed a single life, it keeps grinding, crushing the future as well as the past. Historical records from the court of Aragon in 1287 reveal penalties that go beyond the imagination: branding, disfigurement, forced pilgrimages to distant shrines as a living symbol of disgrace. In the Chronicles of Gascony, a single illicit kiss led to the hanging of a young squire and the sale of his family's lands. The English records tell of entire bloodlines erased after a scandal, estates confiscated by the crown as a warning to others. You see it happen again and again. A woman accused of desiring too openly finds herself locked away in a convent, her name replaced by silence. A servant caught carrying messages for his lord's lover is whipped and left at the edge of the forest, banished from the only home he has ever known. Even those who merely witness a forbidden meeting risk ruin. The circle of suspicion never contracts, only widens. But perhaps most cruel is the way the community participates, not with violence alone, but with ritualized rejection. You notice the turning of heads at feasts, the quiet removal of names from guest lists, the sudden coldness at church. Shame is not a wound that heals, it is a stain that spreads. Children learn to mock what they do not understand. Old friends become informers, eager to trade your secrets for their own survival. Yet, for all the spectacle, you realize the true cost is private, invisible. The victims live on as reminders. Women who walk with downcast eyes, men who speak softly and avoid the gaze of their former equals. They exist in the cracks of society, between memory and oblivion, their stories retold only as warnings. In rare moments, you catch a glimpse of rebellion, a half-smile, a glance exchanged between outcasts, but it fades before it can ignite. The horror is not only in the public punishments or the destruction of families. It is in the normalization of cruelty. The system has taught the world to see suffering as necessary, even righteous. And the next time the mob gathers in the square, you understand. It is not the spectacle of pain they crave, but the comfort of knowing they are not tonight's victims. But here's the darkest truth. Love was never the target. The real crime was failing to obey. The machinery of power and piety, built to protect its own interests, chose desire as the pretext, then sharpened it into a blade. You finally see that courtly love was never about romance, never about poetry, never about the triumph of longing over duty. It was a trap, designed to lure the hopeful, the passionate, the reckless, then crush them for the entertainment and reassurance of all who remained. And even now, as the last echoes of laughter fade, you know another accusation is being prepared. The circle will begin again. The victims will change, but the ritual endures. In this world, suffering is never wasted. It is always repurposed for control. You begin to understand that survival is not a matter of innocence, but of vigilance. Every gesture, every silence, every smile must be measured. The eyes of the castle are not just those of the lords and priests, but of everyone who stands to profit from your downfall. The very air you breathe is thick with suspicion. The system has grown beyond simple justice or punishment. It has become a culture, one that thrives on betrayal. You watch the courtiers move through the halls, speaking in half-truths, weaving alliances that shift with the wind. There are servants who make their living by trading secrets. A misplaced letter, a lingering glance, a phrase overheard at the well. Any detail can be turned into currency. The old stories spoke of honor, but you see now that survival depends on information. The love poems that once promised escape have become evidence, weapons in a war where the battlefield is your own heart. But here's where it gets even more insidious. The game is rigged so you can never truly win. You are watched not just by those in power, but by those beneath you, people who envy your position, your youth, your access to forbidden circles. Spies are everywhere. A scullery maid with sharp eyes, a stable boy with eager ears, a scribe whose ink stains cover 1,000 confessions. You learn to distrust kindness, to see compassion as the mask of calculation. The machinery of surveillance is woven into daily life. In the grand halls of Paris, the royal archives record the case of Blanche of Castile, her private letters intercepted and used as blackmail in a struggle between rival families. She is not destroyed for loving, but for being vulnerable. You begin to realize that the truest danger lies not in passion, but in exposure. Your own words can be twisted, your intentions recast. Each day brings another opportunity for someone to turn your secrets into their survival. The threat is not only direct. The church and the court have created networks of informers who act with impunity. Some do it for coin, others for favor, still others for the pleasure of watching another fall. You see how easy it is to become the target. One moment of unguarded joy, one too bold jest at a feast, and your enemies have what they need. A nod, a smile, a rumor. It is enough to set the wheels of destruction in motion. But the worst is how quickly the unnatural becomes normal. You watch as children learn to hold their tongues, as friends become rivals, as lovers forget how to trust. No one speaks of longing without first checking the shadows. You sense the fear in every gesture. Even those who have never played the game must act as if they have, if only to prove they are above suspicion. The castle itself seems to breathe with secrets. In the kitchens, laughter turns to silence when you enter. On the battlements, the guards' casual chatter hides sharp questions. At Mass, even prayer feels like a performance, offered not to God but to the ever-watchful eyes of the community. The web of surveillance grows tighter, more intricate, until you begin to wonder if it is possible to truly love at all. But here's the deeper horror. The next generation is being taught not to rebel, but to conform. Boys are warned to curb their affections, to hide their desires, to treat every kindness as a liability. Girls are trained to watch themselves and others, to police not only their actions, but their hearts. The system perpetuates itself through shame and silence. Each child becomes both prisoner and warden, learning to fear what might happen should they ever let their guard down. You see it in the faces of those who have survived. Their eyes are wary, their voices measured. They trust nothing, least of all themselves. Love has become not a source of comfort, but a risk to be weighed and avoided. In rare moments you catch a flicker of something real. A smile exchanged when no one is watching. A hand grasped in darkness. But these are exceptions, not rules. The price of openness is too high. Historical records show the machinery at work in every noble house, every town, every village. The archives of the French crown list dozens of cases like Blanche of Castile, men and women ruined by intercepted letters, bribed servants, vengeful rivals. The law is clear. Evidence is anything that can be twisted to fit the accusation. The truth is irrelevant. Only the narrative matters, and those with the power to shape it hold everyone else in their grip. The final lesson comes quietly, almost as an afterthought. The legacy of courtly love is not romance, but obedience. The machinery that once targeted longing for control now shapes every thought and gesture, generation after generation. What began as a game has hardened into a system, as relentless as winter and as invisible as the air. And you, caught in this web, are left to wonder if there was ever such a thing as love at all, or only the longing for it, carefully contained and never spoken aloud. The silence endures. The watchers never sleep. And tomorrow, someone else will be tested, while you, wary and silent, continue to play your part in a system that punishes those who ever dared to dream. You stand at the heart of the great hall, surrounded by the echo of whispers and the weight of eyes, every secret you ever tried to keep now exposed. The air is thick with the scent of burning tallow and cold fear. Your name, once spoken with admiration, is now a weapon. The lords and ladies who applauded your wit and envied your favor have gathered to watch you fall. You search their faces for pity and find only calculation. The ritual is almost complete. A scribe reads the charges. Unlawful affection. Secret correspondence. Disruption of noble order. The words are knives. Your supposed crimes are repeated until they become truth. There is no trial, only performance. The court's judgment is swift and cold. Exile, forfeiture, erasure. Your heraldic crest will be scraped from the castle walls. Your family will be forbidden to speak your name. The punishment is not meant to fit the act. It is meant to erase you entirely. But here's where the horror peaks. You realize that every choice you made, every letter written, every stolen look, every risk for love, has been transformed into evidence, not just against you, but against everyone who dared to care. Those you loved are summoned in turn. The lady whose favor you won is shamed and married off to a distant cousin. The servant who passed your message is stripped and whipped in front of the assembled court. Your loss becomes a lesson, your story, a warning. There is nothing left but the memory of what you tried to protect. Historical records from Avignon in 1326 detail mass trials of courtiers accused of romantic conspiracies. Dozens vanished in a single season, some executed, others consigned to nameless graves, a few smuggled into distant lands under assumed identities. The house banners were removed, the family names forgotten. Centuries later, the empty spaces in the rolls and ledgers still speak of those erased not for treason or murder, but for the crime of longing. But the cruelty does not end at the scaffold or the exile. The world moves on. New scandals arise. New victims are chosen. You walk as a ghost among the living, nameless, stripped of history, a shadow that lingers in the corners of memory. In rare moments, you catch sight of another, someone who recognizes what has been lost, who carries the same wound. You share a glance, an understanding, and then turn away, both marked forever by the same invisible scar. Now, in the cold clarity of your downfall, you see the full shape of the system. Courtly love was never a liberation, never a defiance of order. It was an invention, a tool designed to channel desire into a game where only the powerful set the rules. The rituals of longing, the poetry of devotion, the thrill of risk, all were woven into a net to catch the hopeful and punish the bold. Your suffering is not exceptional. It is necessary. It proves to the world that the system works. And yet, as the years pass, you notice that the rituals remain even as the faces change. The machinery adapts, learns, perfects its methods. Love is still policed, secrets still weaponized, reputations still traded for advantage. The punishments grow subtler. Not public lashing or exile, but isolation, shame, rumor, the slow erasure of self. The fear becomes part of you, a lesson passed down through generations. Children are taught not to love too deeply, not to trust too quickly, not to risk anything that cannot be concealed. But here's the final truth. The shadow of medieval courtly love has never fully disappeared. Even as centuries pass, you see its legacy in every system that turns longing into a liability, intimacy into surveillance, reputation into currency. The world changes, but the old machinery remains, refined, disguised, embedded in laws and customs, in families and hearts. Today, as you walk through your own life, you recognize the signs. the hesitation before a confession, the fear of exposure, the calculation in every romance. You understand at last that the real power of courtly love was not in its passion, but in its control. You came into this story believing in the myth, the poems, the chivalry, the secret meetings in moonlit gardens. Now you see the cost, the broken lives, the families erased, the generations taught to fear the very thing that should have set them free. If this journey has awakened your hunger for the truths that history tried to bury, subscribe now. Join those who refuse to look away, who demand to know not only what was lost, but what remains, still hidden in the shadows of the past. You have witnessed what few dare to name, a world where love itself is dangerous, where the heart's desire is the first link in a chain. Yet, in seeing clearly, you reclaim your agency, not as a victim, but as one who understands. And that, in the end, is the knowledge that outlasts any system of control. The story does not end here. Every time someone questions, remembers, or loves in spite of the risk, the machinery falters, if only for a moment. The rest is up to you.